and over there.
Dave Rickard, Town Councillor in Bridport. I agree with an awful lot of what's been said, so I won't repeat any of that. I will say that Bridport Town Council runs a committee system, and although we do have one party which has more councillors than any other party, every councillor is free to speak at any committee. We make sure that every committee is proportionally represented, and when we have working groups, of which we have many, not only do we make those multi-party, but we also allow members of the public in as well, when it's appropriate. So that's a model that West Dorset could do. They could do it tomorrow. And whilst I agree that actually joining 3 district councils up, and then they're thinking of joining the others up as well, so you'll end up with 2 county councils. It is absolutely ludicrous to have a 2-level system which is covering the same area. So a unitary is an obvious move, and getting rid of the cabinet system is an obvious move. But both of those will take time, and we don't have that much time to actually get things changed. So we've got to persuade them to change the way they do it. So we need to lobby the current West Dorset District Council to actually allow the councillors that are elected to speak. And those that don't speak should be publicly shamed. The press should be in there, the public should be in there. And we need to get this thing democratised, because it's not democracy at all. And Mr. Letwin, you were saying about the ease of decision making when you've got a small number of people. Yes, the corollary of that is, of course, a dictator. Now, you can have a beneficial dictator, or you can have the usual sort.
I like
and
to
unfortunately,
think of my role here as being the sort of dictator. Sorry. I like this.
The problem is, when you elect a president or a dictator, you don't really know what sort they're going to be, and this is what's happened with West Dorset. The other thing I'd like to say, and it's a solution, so that's one solution, is that we lobby now to get them to change the single-partiness of West Dorset and actually allow the public in and allow the non-Tory councillors to actually have a say and have a... we had this thing at the inspector, the planning inspector, and Dr. David Evans swore almost on oath to the inspector that they'd done everything they should have done in consultation. I pointed out that they could do everything they want to on consultation. If they miss out the one crucial thing, and that is listen to what people say in the consultation, then it is of absolute no value whatsoever. And just one last point, and that is when West Dorset was formed in 1974, Bridport and the other market towns and boroughs gave in trust, in safekeeping, many of the assets that belonged to the towns. West Dorset own half of West Bay. They own our car parks. Why? Because they were gifted them by Bridport in 1974 as part of the change of level of government. They belong to us. It's not up to them to sell them. They are committing an offence in of the heart. It may be legal. There may be a bylaw which allows them to do it, but actually when you look at it, it's criminal. And we want them back. If they're going to mess it up, we want them back. Because we can't afford to do the services without the generation of the money that they give us.
Okay, I'm sorry, and this is going to have to be the last question. I do apologise to the people back there who are being ignored, but we'll have another. Go ahead, sir.
That's fine. My name's Fred Horsington. I come from the other side of Dorchester. This evening you've heard a lot about democracy. Every committee meeting of West Dorset is open to the public. You are all welcome to go and make your opinions known and listen. Then you'll know what your district councillors are doing. That's not rubbish, I'm afraid. That is fact. And another thing, a gentleman this evening said...
Hey, let him speak.
Another gentleman said this evening that the number of district councillors have not decreased. Well, at the forthcoming election in May, they will decrease from 48 to 42. So that's 6 gone. The areas have been rejigged. And if you talk about neighbourhood planning, I'm a national neighbourhood planning champion. And if Bridport are doing a neighbourhood plan, as I understand, I've just been through one at Cernabas. What you have to understand about neighbourhood planning is you have to conform with the local plan, broad brush, not word for word, and you also have to conform to the national planning framework. Now, to achieve that, it's not easy. There will be, for Bridport, a lot of hard decisions to make, and I can honestly tell you there will be some disappointment because the neighbourhood plans has to conform with the rest of the planning. Now, I've also heard earlier this evening about the planning committee. How many of you in this room have actually been on West Dorset Planning Committee and had to make the decisions? Not so many of you, I don't expect. You. What do you mean? Well, that's fine, but you'd still find it very difficult to make decisions. You do what the. But that's fine. You do what the people tell you to do. But the reality of it is you have a lot of law that you have to comply with as a member of that committee. If you don't, you're then committing a criminal offence.
Like the district council.
So I'm sorry, having been in the system, and you talk about a committee system. If you have a committee system, you have a proportion of the people that are voted, whether it's independent, liberal, conservative, green, any colour you like. But if you have an overall majority of the people from one party or one group, who is going to have the most say in that district council, whether it's a cabinet system or whether it's a committee system? Think it through. That's all I say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I should say, Fred came to our last meeting and had the courage to come and stand up here and make his position felt, and I appreciate that, because I sometimes think it's not necessarily the opinion that goes down in the room. So thank you for doing that, Fred. Now, look, now we're going to turn to the politicians to give them their time. It's tricky, isn't it? I mean, look, everyone probably knows my biases, and I think we should ultimately give everyone the same amount of time. I was sort of tempted that my mother would never forgive me if I cut a minute off Oliver because he's always had a chance, because my mum has voted Tory since 1612, and I have been unable to talk sense into her. So what we'll do is we'll do everyone the same amount of time, and we're going to do it in alphabetical order of parties. When we come to Sherborne, we'll do it in the opposite order. And 5 minutes each. I really will be a bit vicious about it. Sorry.